Well, I figured I'd make a video about the tractor, mostly because I'm afraid I might mess it up, and we might want to post this video on a forum and beg for mercy from the regulars who know what they're doing. Anyway, so this is the problem. It has a leaking pivot pin, and it leaks from right here. And the only way to tighten that is from behind. There's supposed to be a crown nut on it, and you gotta tighten it from behind. Some people say that if you go in through the PTO access hole, you could reach in there and get it, but I'm not buying that, and I have kind of big hands, so I don't think I would be able to get it in there. So plan B is to take the entire trumpet off. So to do that, I mean, obviously first you have to take the wheel off, and you got to take the fender off, and you have to unhook the three-point hitch. Okay, and you got to get it to this position. And so at this point, that's still hanging on there, but this whole assembly here is ready to come off. I don't even think you have to take the brake off, because you know, nothing's touching back here. It's just a matter of undoing all the bolts and then pulling the thing off. And I got a friend coming over to help me out because it looks pretty heavy. Plus, it's tenuously balanced on a single jack stand, and I don't want this thing falling over in my garage. Anyway, so if you need assistance on how to take the wheel off and how to take the fender off, I can't help you with that. If you can't get that far, then you should probably pay somebody to do this. But anyway, the idea is that I'm going to pull off the pivot pin assembly, clean it all up, torch a little bit and get all the oil off of it, and then I'm going to use gasket maker to make a gasket there and then tighten it all up. And I'll probably use gasket maker to go around the trumpet itself. Anyway, hope I don't fuck this up, because I don't know what's behind here. I've read a couple forums, a couple posts, said that it was supposed to be able to just pull this whole thing off and it comes off in one piece. And it would kind of make sense, because this stuff is just free floating. And this brake assembly doesn't go all the way through. It's only on one side. So I'm hoping that I'll get the desired result. I'll check back in as soon as I get my friend here to help me. So a few things have happened since the first take. One, I realized that you can't see the part that leaks, which is right there. And two, my friends didn't show up to help me. And three, my carburetor is leaking, and I didn't realize it, but it's leaking even when I shut the fuel off, so that means I got a problem over there too. Anyway, pulling it off was, I just improvised this dolly system. That's a motorcycle stand, by the way, and that's a $7 dolly from Harbor Freight. And I wedged it up so it was just perfect, and I slid it right out. I think it's heavier on this side, but came apart real good. Realized while it's leaking, the gasket is like cracked and shot everywhere. One of the studs came out too. That stud started coming out, so I got to fix that. But like everybody says, it's not overly difficult to take off. And if we turn it around here, look what's going on behind here, and sure enough, there is a bolt, and that's the part that's leaking, and it has to come off. I was led to believe that that's a cage nut, but I'm thinking that's not the original nut, because it's painted blue for one, and the rest of the inside of this thing isn't painted blue. And interesting. That's probably why it came loose. Someone had done it up one time, and then it just shook loose like everything else. Actually, most of those bolts that were on there were nearly hand tight. The ones at the top especially, one was missing completely. So I assume that that's a pretty common problem. And then looking at the rest of that, I mean, I assume it's all good. I'm no mechanic. But this particular job for the leaking pivot pin here, not a big deal. So hey, it's daylight, so I figured I would take a video that you could see. And that's what the back of that thing looks like. And I've been calling it a pivot pin the whole time, but it's actually the lower lift pin, and it goes right through there. And that's what you're looking at. And there is supposed to be a crown nut on the other end. Anyway, I cleaned it all off in preparation. Just bought one of these, just a couple bucks. Get the hard stuff off. Come through and clean it up with a nice pad. Did the same to the other side. So it's pretty much ready to go together, but I need to buy some parts. I decided I'm going to get a gasket for this since it's so big, and I didn't really want to use gasket maker on it. It just didn't seem right, and since I had it all apart, I might as well do it right. But the lower lift pin assembly, problem was that this isn't a crown nut, and it's supposed to have a crown nut on the back end. That goes through there, and you stick a crown nut on it, and there's a hole right there that's supposed to take the pin. So I'm going to go out and buy a new crown nut and a couple new pins and put that all back together. And then I probably will use the gasket maker on this surface, but we'll see how that goes.